Hey gang, Evan Sutton here. I'm back with some more Reaktor tips and tricks from me and Dubspot in New York City. Today we're going to talk about building an instrument from the ground up. So in the last tutorial we did a little bit of navigation with some of the library materials. Today we're basically going to start with something very basic. We're going to build a simple subtractive synthesizer with one oscillator and an envelope, and we're just going to get MIDI hooked up. And we're going to make it so that it's nice and solid and nice and useful musically. And this is sort of the base from which we can build more extravagant, more complex Reaktor ensembles. But you got to get some of these fundamentals under your belt to start with. So to get started, I'm in Logic, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and get an instance of Reaktor going. Now, when I'm programming, sometimes I do like to be in standalone mode with Reaktor because it's a little bit more stable in terms of being able to keep track of all of the little bits that are flying around in here. When you're running Reaktor as a plugin, just because of the level of complexity involved with programming in Reaktor, it's very difficult for the DAW to keep track of what's going on inside. Like if you're using just a soft synth or like a drum machine, generally if you save your DAW file in Live or in Logic, it's going to save those settings along with it. But with Reaktor, since there's so much going on, it's important to save a local copy and to continue to save your Reaktor patch separately from your DAW file, because if you don't do that, sometimes it won't be recalled with the DAW file and you can lose your work. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and go to View and click Large Size. We can't change the size in plugin mode like we can in standalone, so it's just a nice thing to do. I like lots of room when I am programming. So on the left over here we have our browser area, we have our snapshot area right here. If you're not familiar with those, you can go and check out the previous tutorial that I did, and we talk about basically getting started with Reaktor and getting everything working and some basic navigation stuff. So go check that out if you haven't yet. Now we're going to go ahead and create a new ensemble. We talked about how an ensemble is the highest point in the hierarchy here. Ensembles hold instruments, which then hold modules and all the other stuff. So we're going to go ahead and create a new ensemble here. All right, and right now I'm on the panel view, and we have this handy navigation up here that's fairly new. And so I'm looking at the panel right now, and if this were a finished instrument, then I would have all my knobs and stuff up here. But I'm going to go ahead and click on New, and New is going to let me look inside what's called the structure of my ensemble. So I can view the instruments. We have audio in right here. These aren't being used right now. As you can see, they're not lit up. If the module you have in the structure is not lit up, then it means it's not connected to the outside world. And the outside world is this audio bus right here. We have left and right. These are audio outs 1 and 2. And I have this instrument here, and by default, it is connected left and right to the audio outs. So I'm going to go ahead now. I can double click on this instrument. It's empty, and I have my info hints on. This instrument is empty because I created a new ensemble. By default, it has created an empty instrument, and it's connected those to the audio bus for me. I'm going to double click on this instrument, and now we're inside the structure of that instrument. So we have the 3 levels of hierarchy up on the top. We have the front panel, which is what you'd see if you were just using this to perform with or to play music on, if you weren't doing any programming or making any changes to it. Then we have in New, where we can see the instrument structure. We may have multiple instruments, remember. Today we're going to make this into a basic synthesizer. And I can go inside of the instrument here. And these are the basic output ports. So L and R, 1 and 2, are actually the 1 and 2 L and R that we're seeing right here. So that's how we determine what is actually connected to the outside world. In this case, it's going to be audio. So just to get started, I also want to mention this button up here. This is the audio run button, run audio. And I'm going to go ahead and turn that off, because what I'm going to do to start is actually connect an oscillator. And turning off the audio bus is a really handy thing to do, because when we're programming, we haven't set boundaries for any of the signals that are running around inside of the instrument. And those boundaries are typically things that are set pretty low, and they're in a nice handy place for you when you're opening up like Massive or another software synthesizer that you have that's already been completed. But right now we have these signals kind of running wild. So you just want to protect yourself, turn down your speakers a little bit. So now we're going to go ahead and add our first module. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to right click, and I have this list here. So there are built-in modules, core cells, macros, which are groups of modules. Macro is like one step below an instrument. Then we have instruments that we can bring in, and this is library stuff. There are plenty of things that you can bring in, and a few different options. We're going to stick with built-in module because this has sort of the basic modular synthesis nuts and bolts. So we're just going to start by going to oscillator, and you're going to notice that there are different oscillators for basically each waveform. There are some variations, but let's go ahead and just start with the basic sawtooth. So what we can do is we can actually connect this sawtooth to the output ports here, and you're going to notice that it is in fact lit up. And what that means is that it is connected to the outside world via the audio bus. Okay, so we have the sawtooth going to the output ports, and then we also have those output ports going to the audio bus out here. So let's go back into the instrument. All right, so that's good. If I go ahead and I'm going to turn the output down a good amount, I can turn the audio bus on, and if I bring it up very slowly, we're going to see that we're not getting much here. That's because we don't really have any information going in. This is just a sawtooth oscillator. It's not an entire synthesizer in and of itself. It needs information in order to create a wave. So we have two inlets or two input ports for information for this oscillator. And you're going to see these everywhere. We have P and A. Now P stands for pitch, okay? A stands for amplitude. And the first simple thing that we can do is we can actually just create a knob. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on this A, and I'm going to click create control. Creating a control can be nice because it can help you explore what kinds of signals this port will understand. So I'm going to click on this sawtooth here, and I can go over to this properties window. This check mark is the properties area. And if I click on info, then for most of the modules, we have a little write-up here. It says oscillator for sawtooth signal with logarithmic pitch control, P, and linear amplitude modulation, A. Okay, and if I mouse over, we can see that same thing. If I mouse over the actual input port, it's going to tell us our typical range, and that's between 0 and 1. Now, if I click on this knob here, and I go over to function, I can actually set the minimum and maximum of the knob. It's been automatically set to a range of 0 to 1, and I'll change the steps to 127 just because we're probably dealing with MIDI, and it does the step size calculation for you. So we're moving between 0 and 1 in 127 steps to control the amplitude. Okay, that's cool. Now, the next thing that we need is pitch. So P stands for pitch, and typically we measure pitch in hertz, which is linear. Now, P actually is looking for a MIDI note number. So we're going to go with a MIDI signal for this one, and it's going to be a range of 0 to 127. It's going to understand these whole numbers, okay, just like they're being sent from your keyboard. So I can right-click here, and I could say create control if I want, and you'll notice that it's created a range of 0 to 127 with a step size of 1, so we're just stepping through all of the different MIDI notes. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, the way that pitches are transmitted via MIDI are with a MIDI note number, and that's a range of 0 to 127. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to click on these two bars right here, and it says split horizontally. This is a nice thing to do. So we're going to actually be able to use two separate views here, and I'm going to go down to the bottom here, and I'm going to click panel. So now I can look at the front end of my instrument as well as the back end in here. What we're noticing is that the pitch and amp knobs are on top of each other, and this is annoying because this is just how Reaktor deploys a knob or a slider that you create wherever you happen to put it. So I've got both pitch and amplitude. We can see as I click on the two of them, we have two different values. It's always going to put them on top of each other. We have to split them up. So in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and click the wrench here, and I'm just going to go down here and I'm going to click on one of the knobs and just drag it over. And now we can see the two knobs. Okay. If I want to move one of the parameters on one of these knobs, then I can't do that with the wrench engaged. The wrench just means that we can move things around within our front end of the instrument. And also it will automatically resize depending on where we put things. So right now it's very small, that's fine. So I'm going to unclick it. Let's turn the amp all the way down. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the run audio button. And this pitch was at 69 dudes before, but let's just bring the amp up slowly. And there we go. We're getting a nice amount of audio here. And I can move this pitch knob up and down to get different pitches. Okay, cool. As you can see, we don't have any envelopes or anything here. There's nothing stopping this audio. So if audio is running, then the sawtooth wave is going to be pushing that right out, and we don't always want that. So now let's take it to the next level. Let's make this thing an actual instrument. Right now we can make a kind of nice drone thing out of it that's fun and everything, but let's go ahead and let's change this so that we can actually play this with the keyboard. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lasso both the pitch and the amplitude knobs, and I'm going to delete them. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go to built-in module, and I'm going to go to LFO, envelope, and I'm just going to go down to ADSR. Now, ADSR is a basic 4-part envelope. The output I'm going to put into the amplitude here, okay? So we have input ports for A, D, S, and R, attack, decay, sustain, and release. And we also have this input labeled G. G stands for gate. And in Reaktor, this is where you want to put things like velocity, because what this is going to do is actually scale the overall size of the envelope, which is modulating the amplitude of the sawtooth wave. What I'm going to do is I'm going to right click again. I'll go to built-in module, MIDI in. Then I'm going to go to gate, okay? And gate basically going to be taking the place of velocity. This is the way that velocity is used in Reaktor. So when I hit a note, it's going to say, this is how hard it was hit. And then when I release my finger, it's going to say, okay, now it's gone. And that's going to trigger the envelope. Now I'm going to go ahead and create controller knobs for A, D, S, and R, okay? I can go ahead and click the wrench, and I'll spread these out a little bit, release at the end, sustain, and decay. Let's make these nice and even. You are so good looking. All right, now that we've got our envelope in place, I'm going to go ahead and let's address pitch, okay? So P stands for pitch. It's going to want a MIDI note number. So I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go to built-in module, MIDI in again. And we're just going to grab note pitch. Simple. There we go. All right, perfect. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run audio, and notice we're not hearing anything. And I'm just going to put the sustain all the way up, the release at a reasonable place. And what I might do just to safeguard myself is turn the volume down a little bit, just to make sure. And now I'm going to go ahead and hit a key. And we can make a couple of different sounds with this. It's a nice sounding instrument. Now, if you want one last level of control, we can definitely go ahead and add that. I'm going to move over the output ports here, and I'm going to delete this connection. Now, just to make this a little bit more useful and a little bit easier to deal with, I'm going to right click, I'll go to built-in module and then signal path, and I'm just going to add a simple amp. This is just a simple mixer, and what it's going to do is let me scale this outgoing audio signal so that I can actually change the volume and put it in a useful place. So I'll go ahead and take the output of the sawtooth wave here, and I'll put it into the mixer. And now I'm just going to right click on level and hit create control. And now we have this slider that it's created. I'll click the wrench to move it over. And now I have this level guy here. Now if I don't want to see the structure of this thing anymore, I'll just click on this split horizontally button one more time. And now I've got an instrument with a nice clean interface. So this is the basis of much larger ensembles that you can build if you want to get more complex with some of these things. And if you want to go crazy with some of these things, come hang out with me at Dubspot. We're doing this all the time. We're talking about Reaktor in the sound design synthesis program. Once again, this is Evan Sutton. You can catch me at astrolith.net. I hope to see you next time. Thanks.
Welcome to Dubspot. We believe in providing you hands-on experience right away. Whether you're completely new to music and want to turn the sounds in your head into a musical reality, or you're an experienced artist looking to refine your skills and add new tools to your arsenal, we're ready to meet you at your level. For students of all ages, all levels, and all styles of music, Dubspot is here to help you achieve your goals. With course offerings both online wherever you are and at our school in the heart of New York City, we are ready to guide you through the next phase of your musical transformation. Whether you want to produce music, DJ, or do both, you've come to the right place. Come explore Dubspot for yourself. Become a part of our community and make music.